My family mocked my divorce, so I exposed each of their dirty secrets one by one and watched their perfect lives quietly fall apart. I'm a 35-year-old man, and about a month ago, I finalized my divorce after 5 years of marriage. It wasn't dramatic, at least not on paper. There were no custody battles or screaming matches in court, just a quiet agreement, a few signatures, and the final stamp that declared we were done. I was ready to leave it all behind. I thought I could disappear into my routine, focus on work, keep my head down, and move forward. A week later, my extended family hosted a casual Sunday gathering, one of those backyard hangouts where people bring food and sit around folding tables, acting like everything's perfect. It had been planned before the divorce was finalized, but I still showed up. I figured I'd make an appearance, smile, eat something, and slip out early. I had no idea the entire day would turn into a roast session with me as the punchline. It started small. A cousin passed me a beer and said, "Well, I guess love's not for everyone." I let it slide. An aunt leaned over during dinner and asked if I was moving into a smaller place now, since I wouldn't need all that space anymore. I laughed awkwardly and said I was figuring it out. Then someone else chimed in about how modern relationships just don't last. Every comment was a jab dressed up as concern. Then came the big hit. My uncle, the loud one who always thinks he's hilarious, raised his glass and said, "To damaged goods. Hope the second one sticks if he finds someone desperate enough." He said it loud enough that people stopped eating. Some looked away, but a bunch of them laughed, real laughs, like they'd been holding it in all evening. I looked around the table and realized how many of them were enjoying it. Even my younger cousin, who had just gotten married last year, smirked and said, "Maybe he should ask me for tips on what not to do." My parents? Nothing. They were sitting right there. My dad stirred his coffee. My mom looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. Just silence. And that silence said more than any of the jokes. I didn't say a word. I finished my plate, stayed another 15 minutes, and left without announcing it. The ride home was dead quiet, no music. I didn't even call anyone. I just sat in my car outside my apartment and thought about how easy it was for all of them to believe the worst about me. None of them had ever asked me what actually happened. They didn't want the truth. They were happy with the version my ex-wife gave them, where I was cold, emotionally distant, and controlling. She'd done a good job spinning that narrative, and they bought it without asking questions. But here's the thing. They only knew her version. They didn't know what went on behind closed doors. They didn't know about the messages I'd found on her phone the night she came home late, reeking of someone else's cologne. They didn't know about the slip-ups when she'd say the wrong name or suddenly have new inside jokes I wasn't part of. They didn't know she had admitted to cheating during one of our final fights, drunkenly, tearfully, and then swore I was gaslighting her when I brought it up the next morning. I had kept all the receipts, screenshots, saved messages, even voice notes where she practically confessed. But I never shared any of it. Not with family, not with friends, not even online. I thought silence would be the more dignified way to go. Let her have her version, I'd live mine. That night at the family gathering flipped a switch. It wasn't just about the jokes, it was about how easy it was for them to use me as the target, like I was the designated family failure. I'd seen it before. Now that I thought about it, every time something went wrong, I was the easy name to bring up. Never married yet? Ask him. Career change? Must be another failure. Now, the divorce, perfect. Another punchline to keep the illusion going that they had it all figured out. I realized I had nothing left to lose by telling the truth, not just about my marriage, but about them. Because what I had kept to myself for years, they had done far worse and quietly buried it, expecting everyone else to keep playing pretend. So that night, instead of deleting the old messages or wiping the backup drive, I opened it up. Then I opened a second folder, one with screenshots of things I had seen over the years, inappropriate messages sent by married cousins, a financial dispute swept under the rug, a family friend who mysteriously stopped coming around after accusing one of my uncles of something serious. I started organizing it, not out of anger, but out of clarity. If they wanted to laugh at my pain, then they could sit with their own truth too. This isn't about revenge. I'm not trying to burn bridges or wreck lives. I'm just done playing the scapegoat. I'm done keeping secrets for people who never had my back. If speaking the truth breaks the illusion they've built, then maybe it's time it breaks. Because after that dinner, one thing became obvious. Nobody in that family is innocent. Some of them are just better liars. The uncle who called me damaged goods at the family gathering had always walked around like he owned every room he entered. Loud voice, big laugh, and way too many stories that started with back in my day. He was the kind of person who never let anyone forget their mistakes, especially not mine. But what most people in the family didn't know, or maybe chose to forget, was that his first marriage didn't end quietly. It ended in scandal, and I remembered enough of it to know where to start digging. I went through some old emails I had backed up from years ago, back when I was helping my dad set up a new laptop. He had forwarded a batch of legal documents from a shared drive, including divorce paperwork that had been discussed in passing back then. I remembered seeing the uncle's name. I looked again and found it, buried under folders with vague names, but all still there. The court filings were clear. His ex-wife had cited irreparable damage caused by infidelity and included a sworn statement detailing his relationship with a coworker from his accounting firm. There were old witness statements, one from a receptionist who'd seen them checking into a hotel during work hours. I cross-referenced it with archived posts from his ex-wife's old blog, which mentioned the betrayal that ended everything without naming names, but the dates and details lined up perfectly. I took screenshots, organized them into a clean PDF, and included copies of the court excerpts. I didn't sign it or tag anyone. I just dropped it into the family group chat with one sentence: "Maybe we should stop laughing at other people's pain." The chat lit up in under 5 minutes. A few relatives left the group entirely. Others posted question marks or tried to joke it off. Some asked who sent it. No one admitted anything. Then the uncle jumped in, denying everything, saying it was a low blow and someone was trying to ruin the family's peace. But then one of the older cousins, his own niece, typed that she remembered the divorce and that the documents looked real to her. That shut him up. Messages slowed down after that. An hour later, his son messaged me directly, not to ask if it was true. He already knew it was. He accused me of trying to destroy what little respect the family still had for each other. I responded with just one line: "You laughed at my pain. I just answered with the truth." That was the last message exchanged between us. No typing bubble after that, no reply. A day later, I checked from a secondary account and saw I was blocked, not just on that chat, but on every platform. No mutual follows, no shared groups, gone. Later that evening, my parents called me. My dad did most of the talking. He didn't raise his voice, just asked if I had thought through the consequences of what I sent. My mom asked what I hoped to gain from doing this. Neither of them told me I was wrong. Neither of them said I lied. They just sounded tired. I told them I was tired too. With that handled, I turned back to the part everyone thought they already knew: my divorce. The story they'd been fed was simple. I had been cold, distant, too focused on work. She had tried her best, but I just wasn't present. What no one knew was that 6 months before the divorce, I had found out about her coworker. She left her tablet unlocked one night, and I read through a conversation that included everything from hotel bookings to messages like, "Don't worry, he never notices anything." I had taken screenshots that night. I'd backed them up to multiple drives. She admitted to it during an argument when she thought I wouldn't have the nerve to leave. Then she tried to twist it into something mutual, that we had both emotionally checked out. But I didn't cheat. I never stepped out. I just kept quiet because I thought it would make the split easier. A friend of mine, a former coworker of hers, had seen them out together once. Not a group thing, just the two of them. He even texted me that night, asking if we were still together because he didn't want to assume anything. When I asked if he'd be willing to share what he saw, he didn't hesitate. He wrote out a clear timeline, added the location, and let me use his name. I redacted it before sending anything out. I built another folder, screenshots, timeline, the message thread where she said it was a mistake, but I don't regret it. No contact info, no personal addresses, nothing that would make it seem like an attack, just facts. Then I privately sent it to a few people who had been the loudest during the family event. The same cousin who made the what not to do joke, an aunt who had always spoken as if my ex-wife was the innocent one, a couple of others who clapped the loudest when the jokes flew. No public drama followed. No one posted anything in the group, but I saw it. One by one, they stopped liking each other's posts. A friend mentioned some removed wedding photos. The cousin who cracked the joke reportedly changed his relationship status to "it's complicated." No one said a word to me, no one messaged, but the silence was heavy. The pretending was cracking, and I wasn't even close to done. A few days after I sent out the folder about my ex-wife, one of my aunts reached out. She was the loudest one, laughing at the family gathering, smiling before the punchlines even landed. She messaged me first, furious, and later called to accuse me of digging up dirt to tear the family apart. She said I was trying to ruin whatever peace we had left. I didn't raise my voice. I told her that peace built on lies isn't peace at all. It's just everyone pretending long enough to avoid being the next one exposed. She didn't like that answer, so I gave her something else to think about. Years ago, she divorced her husband and told everyone it was because they had grown apart, irreconcilable differences. That was the line she repeated any time someone asked, but I remembered hearing whispers back then. I was still in college at the time, but my uncle, her ex-husband, had come to our house once, talking to my dad in the garage. He mentioned missing payments, checks disappearing from the business account, vendors calling about bounce payments. My dad brushed it off as a bad split, but I remembered it. It sounded like more than just growing apart. I looked into it again. It took a couple of hours, but I found it. An old newspaper article from the local business section that reported her husband had shut down his landscaping company after financial issues. It mentioned an internal investigation but didn't name names. I dug deeper. A few online forums and archived websites still had customer reviews. Some of them mentioned missed work, refund issues, checks that didn't clear. Then I found a former employee on social media. He had worked for the company back then. I messaged him, explained I was looking into an old family issue, and asked if he remembered anything about how the business closed. He didn't hesitate. He said the boss's wife had been caught writing checks to herself and using the company card for personal expenses, that she bailed right before things collapsed and left him to clean it up. He wasn't angry about it anymore, but he still remembered everything clearly. He wrote a short statement, signed it, and let me use it. I saved the screenshots, the article, his message, everything. Her 2 kids were both adults now. One worked in tech, the other in marketing. At the get-together, they'd both laughed when someone joked about how I must be bad at love. I sent them the file directly, no introduction, no explanation, just a zipped folder with a title that read, "You deserve to know the full story." The reaction didn't take long. One of them messaged their mother that same evening and demanded to know what really happened. I wasn't in the room, but I didn't need to be. I got the fallout secondhand. The aunt called me the next morning, screaming, accusing me of trying to ruin her relationship with her children. She said I was vindictive, that I had waited years to get revenge for being treated like an outsider. I let her talk. Then I said, "Public mockery invites public consequences," and hung up. She blocked me the same day, every platform I checked. I saw the blank profile and didn't look again. A few days later, one of her kids messaged me, just a few lines. They said they were sorry for making fun of me at the gathering, that they had never heard their mom's version questioned before, that it made them rethink a lot of things. They didn't try to defend her. They didn't ask me to take anything back. They just said sorry. I told them the truth. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I just wanted honesty. If people could laugh at me without knowing what really happened, then maybe it was time they stopped assuming their own parents were perfect. Around the same time, a mutual friend reached out. They said my ex-wife had asked them to talk to me. She wanted me to stop dragging this out, that I was making things worse. The friend didn't take a side, just passed on the message. I told them not to forward anything else from her. I wouldn't be speaking with or about her again. That part of my life was finished. There was nothing else to explain. One more silence added to the pile. No more calls, no more messages, just a few more cracks showing in the fake smiles people had worn for years. And I hadn't even touched the ones they all considered untouchable yet. About a week after the last wave of fallout, I got a message from my cousin Jenna. She hadn't said much at the family gathering. No jokes, no laughs, just sat at the edge of the patio, eating in silence. She wasn't someone I spoke to often, but we grew up together. She was always the kind to stay out of the drama. This time she didn't. She asked to meet in person. We grabbed coffee at a quiet spot. She said she'd been thinking about the way everyone piled on me at the gathering and how it had never sat right with her. Then she told me something that shifted everything again. 3 years ago, there was a family wedding out of town. It was a weekend event, big venue, lots of hotel rooms booked for extended family, open bar, the usual chaos. Jenna remembered seeing my ex-wife and her cousin Daniel acting way too familiar late one night by the pool. At first, she thought maybe they were just talking. Then she saw them again the next day, slipping away together before the ceremony. She never said anything because she didn't have proof and didn't want to start drama, but it always stayed with her. After we talked, I went home and checked my old phone backups from that weekend. I still had some of the group pictures we took at the wedding. There were timestamps. I noticed my ex-wife and Daniel were both missing from a chunk of them, right around the time Jenna said they disappeared. That was my first clue. I dug into my old laptop, where I had saved old synced messages. Back then, I was still using cloud backups and had autosync turned on. I found several old synced messages from my ex-wife's chat history with Daniel, teasing exchanges, and one that implied something more had happened. A lot of teasing, private jokes that I'd never heard before, and one message sent the morning after the wedding that said, "Still can't believe last night happened." It lined up the dates, the tone, the missing photos, Jenna's memory, all of it. Daniel had been one of the loudest at the family gathering. He made a big deal out of my divorce, laughed at every punchline. At one point, he'd even nudged my cousin and asked if I was off the market again. Now I had this. I screenshotted one of the messages and sent it to Daniel with no other explanation except, "You remember this night?" It didn't take long for him to react. A wall of messages followed. He tried saying it was a mistake, that my ex-wife had come on strong, and that he was drunk and it didn't mean anything. Then he tried shifting blame, saying she had been the one initiating things all weekend, and he didn't know what he was doing. Classic dodge. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead of sending the whole thing to the family group or turning it into another public spectacle, I picked out a few names. The cousins who had laughed the loudest. One of them was Daniel's own younger sibling. I sent the file, archived texts, the message I sent him, plus a brief timeline of that weekend. Nothing dramatic, just facts. The group chat I sent it to went silent for 2 days. No one responded. Then one cousin sent a short message. Didn't know this. Shouldn't have laughed. No excuses, no defense, just that. After that, Daniel's name started disappearing online. His social accounts were deleted. A week later, I heard from a mutual connection that his girlfriend had found out about everything. They'd been living together for a few years. She packed her things and moved out. Daniel had to crash at a friend's place for a while. He changed his number soon after. I haven't heard from him since. At the next small family lunch, people avoided me. No one brought up the gathering. No side jokes, no snide comments. People who used to make eye contact didn't anymore. Conversation shifted the second I walked into the room. Jenna messaged me again just to say thank you. She appreciated that I didn't throw her under the bus. She said it felt good to finally say something after holding it in for so long. I told her the truth. None of this started with her, and none of it would end with Daniel. Because for years, some of these relatives built their reputations on fake stories. They were seen as successful, loyal, kind, respectable. But it was all a mask, and I was done helping them wear it. This wasn't even close to over. The next person on my list wasn't even blood-related. Brandon married into the family years ago when he got with my cousin Elise. Both of them had smirked their way through every joke made about my divorce at the gathering. At one point, Brandon leaned over to someone and whispered something while staring at me, then laughed. I didn't know what he said, but I remembered the look. A while back, a friend of mine mentioned that he'd come across Brandon's profile on a sugar dating site. At the time, I brushed it off. It wasn't my business. But now, with everything unfolding, I remembered that conversation and circled back. I asked for the name of the site. It was still active. I made a fake profile using stock images and vague details. It took about a week of casual browsing and timing before I matched with Brandon. His profile didn't hide much. He listed himself as married, but said he was looking for excitement, not drama. We messaged back and forth. He sent flirtatious comments, made a few inappropriate jokes, and even asked if I was free to meet up the following weekend. When I asked him about his wife, he replied that she thought he was going on a solo hiking trip. Same dates as their anniversary getaway, according to Elise's old posts on social media. I took screenshots of everything, messages, profile details, timestamps. Then I saved a couple of Elise's vacation posts from the same weekend. Matching dates, matching locations. The proof was clean. I didn't want to blast it to the family. This wasn't about putting on a show. It was about making sure the people who mocked me couldn't keep pretending their lives were perfect. I used a burner email account and sent Elise the entire folder. I didn't sign it or include any message beyond the basics. The email subject line was the only thing I wrote, "You should know." She didn't reply for 3 days. Then, finally, one sentence. "I don't even know how to process this. Why now?" I didn't respond. There was nothing else to say. I wasn't looking for a thank you or an explanation. I just wanted the lies to stop. Over the next couple of weeks, Brandon started disappearing. He didn't show up to the next family birthday party. No posts, no comments. A cousin mentioned in passing that he had resigned from his remote job to focus on personal matters. No one brought up what happened, but everyone was noticeably quieter when his name came up. It was like they were trying to scrub him from the picture without asking why he left the room in the first place. Elise pulled away too. She stopped joining the family video calls, skipped dinners. A mutual cousin told me she moved back in with her parents to sort things out. No other details, but the tone made it clear the story was unraveling. The silence from the rest of the family wasn't surprising. The same relatives who laughed at me a few weeks ago now avoided looking me in the eye at a family brunch. One of them nearly knocked over a glass trying to move to the opposite end of the table when I sat down. No one apologized. No one admitted anything. But the air had shifted. I knew some of them were starting to see me as the villain in this story, the one stirring the pot, the one dragging skeletons into the light. That was fine. I wasn't here to win them over. I wasn't chasing sympathy or trying to make them like me. I just wanted the record set straight. The ones who laughed at my divorce were being exposed one by one, and I hadn't even gotten to the biggest players yet, the people the family always pointed to as the ideal, the so-called golden couple, the ones with picture-perfect smiles and an Instagram full of sunsets, anniversaries, and long captions about loyalty and faith. Their turn was next. The next ones were the so-called golden couple, my cousin Sarah and her husband Troy. The family always treated them like the ideal. Anniversary dinners with matching outfits, posed vacation shots in the mountains, heartfelt captions about loyalty, growth, and teamwork. At the family gathering, Sarah made a loud comment that stuck. She said, "Maybe I just wasn't husband material." A few people laughed. Troy chuckled along. It didn't surprise me. They were always the first to present a polished image, especially when it made others look worse. Sarah had a pattern. Over the last few years, regular girls' weekends and fancy hotels, stories posted online, never with friends, just spa pics, hotel room service, gym mirror selfies, always solo, no tags, no group shots, just vague captions about self-care and recharging. It didn't add up. I never cared enough to dig before, but now I had a reason. I started with her old Instagram stories, the ones still archived on her highlights. They weren't public anymore, but I had a habit of saving things. I pulled metadata from the photos, geotags, timestamps, file details. Then I looked up the hotels. Every location matched with conferences or business events hosted by a financial tech company. I checked the list of companies associated with those events and found the name of someone from Sarah's past, her ex-boyfriend. They dated in college, and I remembered him clearly. He worked for that company now. He was even listed as a panel speaker at 2 of those events. A friend of mine who works in corporate planning was able to confirm that Sarah had been seen at several of the events she never mentioned to the family. Sarah's name wasn't listed as an employee, speaker, or registered attendee, but she was there, spotted multiple times at receptions, dinners, even checking into the same hotel blocks reserved for the company. That was enough. I pulled hotel invoices under her name from one of the online booking aggregators that still had her trip reviews archived, matched those to the event dates. The overlap was perfect. The story she'd sold the family didn't match the facts. I compiled everything: screen captures, event schedules, metadata logs, booking confirmations, and Instagram highlights. Then I packaged it all into one folder and sent it directly to Troy. No note, just the files. His reply came within the hour. It was one line: "Thank you for the honesty. I should have looked into it years ago." That was it. A few days later, someone noticed he'd left all the family group chats. Another cousin said Troy had packed his things and moved out. He didn't make a scene, no dramatic farewell, just quiet distance. Then Sarah showed up 3 days after Troy moved out. She came to my apartment. I don't know how she found out where I lived, maybe through an old address saved in the family group or some shared invite. She banged on the door, shouting loud enough for neighbors to peek out, screaming that I had ruined everything. When I didn't answer, she went around the back of the building. That's when I called the police. They arrived within minutes. She was escorted off the property. I filed a trespassing report and blocked her number, her email, and every possible point of contact. I haven't seen or heard from her since. What followed next happened fast. Sarah's personal brand, a small wellness business tied to her social media, started taking hits. A few local sponsorships pulled out quietly. One fitness brand removed her tagged photos. Her posting slowed down, then stopped altogether. The profile's still up, but comments are turned off, and nothing new's been added in weeks. Some relatives started whispering. A few said I was going too far, that enough was enough. No one said it to my face, though, just passive remarks at family functions. One cousin mentioned how it was sad when private matters became public weapons. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Everyone used to pretend everything was fine, that this family was solid, that the cracks didn't exist. All I did was shine a light where they kept hiding the dirt. And there was still more to uncover. About a week after the Sarah and Troy situation blew over, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years, my grandfather's brother. He's one of the oldest living relatives, rarely speaks at family events, and usually stays far from any drama. So when his number popped up, I picked up. He didn't waste time. His tone was calm but serious. He told me I needed to stop, that the family was breaking apart, and if I kept going, there might not be anything left to fix. I asked him one question. Why didn't anyone tell the people mocking me to stop before it got to this point? There was silence on the other end. Then the call ended. No goodbye, no answer. That same evening, I received an anonymous email. No name, no note, just a video file and a subject line that read, "Since truth matters now." I scanned it before opening. The clip was short, barely a minute long, but clear. It showed my older brother in a hotel lounge kissing someone who wasn't his wife. They weren't just talking or sitting close. His hand was on her leg. She leaned into him. The timestamp on the security footage was from a night he had claimed to be away on a business trip. I checked his social media. That same day, he posted a photo of a conference badge and a city skyline from his hotel window. I checked the metadata on that photo. It matched the same location as the hotel in the video. Then I opened up his old public fitness tracker, one of those running apps that posts routes. He hadn't locked down the privacy settings. The GPS showed he was in that exact part of town the entire weekend. I didn't call him. I didn't confront him. I sent the video and screenshots directly to his wife with a simple message: no one deserves to be lied to. 3 days later, she moved out. No warning, no social media posts, just gone. My brother called repeatedly that same week. When I didn't respond, he eventually showed up at my place, angry, loud, and demanding answers. He was yelling about betrayal, about how I'd ruined his life. I called the police. When they arrived, they escorted him off the property without much resistance. I filed a restraining order that same day. The papers were served within 48 hours. My brother packed up and moved to another state shortly after. He cut all contact, deleted shared family accounts, left every group thread, blocked me on every channel. Then our mother called. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just said I should remember he's still my brother, that family is family no matter what. I told her that betrayal doesn't get a family pass. Then I ended the call. A few days later, I started getting vague messages from distant cousins, warnings disguised as concern, things like "you've made your point, maybe it's time to stop," or "let sleeping dogs lie." I didn't answer any of them. No one warned the ones who laughed at me to stop. No one told them they were going too far. But now, after a few uncomfortable truths, they wanted it to end. That wasn't happening. I started reviewing old photo albums, childhood videos, even yearbooks, not out of nostalgia, but to trace back where this all began. When did the dynamic shift? When did I become the one they all felt safe mocking? Who started it? Who decided I was the easy target? It wasn't just about the divorce anymore. It never was. It was about a pattern that stretched back further than I thought, and I wasn't done unraveling it yet. A few weeks after my brother moved out of state and the rest of the family went into full avoidant mode, I got an anonymous message through a throwaway account. No name attached, just a short sentence and a link to an old court database. The message read, "You missed one. Look into your father's sister." That aunt had always played the role of the family's moral voice. She was the one sending out inspirational quotes in group chats, hosted Thanksgiving every other year. Whenever someone made a mistake, she was the first to talk about grace, accountability, and forgiveness, always from a safe distance. At the gathering, she didn't laugh, but she didn't stop anyone either. She just smiled quietly, the way people do when they want to watch without getting involved. I clicked the link. It took me to a set of public court records. Her name showed up in a civil case from years ago, filed shortly before her divorce. I requested the documents in full and paid for certified copies. The case involved financial misconduct linked to her ex-husband's construction business. According to the filings, a large amount of money, close to 6 figures, had been funneled out of the company's joint account into a separate shell corporation she registered using a different last name. She closed that company down a month after the divorce finalized. The court documents mentioned that the ex-husband had chosen not to press criminal charges for the sake of their children, who were still in high school at the time. He had covered the missing funds using personal savings and a second mortgage. None of this was ever mentioned to the family. The story we were told was that they had grown apart but remained gracefully civil. I reached out to a former accountant who had worked with the business back then. He was retired now but remembered the situation clearly. He confirmed that multiple red flags were raised during quarterly audits and that the owner, my aunt's ex, had tried to keep it quiet to protect the kids. The accountant gave me a statement in writing. Then I searched local news archives and eventually found one article that briefly mentioned the business folding, citing internal mismanagement. It didn't name her directly, but the dates and timeline matched. I put everything into a folder, scanned financial records, court documents, the accountant's statement, and the news clipping. Her 2 daughters, now adults, had both mocked me at the family event. I sent them the folder, no message, no explanation, just the files. One of them responded within hours, "Why are you doing this now?" The other never replied at all. The aunt must have heard about it quickly because the next day, she posted a long message in the family group. It was vague, talked about how sometimes people make tough choices and how forgiveness matters. No one replied, not even a thumbs up. Instead of replying in the chat, I sent a second file directly to her daughters. This one had loan documents in her ex-husband's name, signed by her, with default notices attached. She'd taken out a private loan under his name shortly before the divorce, never told him, and left him with the ruined credit score when she stopped paying. This time, the silence was louder. One of her daughters made a public post on her own page about relearning who your parents really are. A few days later, she removed all family photos from her social media. The other daughter deactivated her account completely. The aunt blocked me across every platform. Then she posted one of those cryptic Facebook messages with a floral background, something about when loyalty is punished and betrayal wears a mask. 2 likes. After that, family circles changed. No one laughed at me anymore, but they also didn't talk to me. At a birthday dinner the next weekend, people made sure not to sit at my table. Conversations lowered when I passed by. Even the kids picked up on it. I wasn't feared, but I was avoided, like the truth was contagious. Near the end of the night, one cousin leaned over while pretending to refill his drink and muttered, "You didn't break the family. You just stopped lying for it." I didn't reply. There wasn't a need. Now there was only one piece left, something I hadn't talked about yet, something that started long before my marriage, before the divorce, before any of the jokes, the part that explained why I was always the one they aimed at, even when I'd done nothing wrong. That was coming next. The divorce was never the real reason. It just gave them something new to point at. Years before my marriage fell apart, I was already the family's easy target. Quiet, focused, not loud enough to dominate the room, not reckless enough to distract from other people's problems. I was the one who didn't fight back, which made me useful, a buffer, a fallback. It had started years ago, during a family trip when I was in my early 20s. We'd all gone to a rented cabin near the lake for a long weekend. One night, while most people were out by the fire pit, I came back inside to grab a jacket. As I passed by the den, I heard my father's voice. He was in the room with my uncle. The door wasn't fully closed. I stopped when I heard my name. They were talking about me like I wasn't their own blood. My father said I was too soft, too passive, and that if the family ever needed someone to take the heat for anything, I'd be the one who wouldn't fight it. My uncle agreed, called me safe, said I wouldn't tarnish the family's name if something went wrong. I'd just take it quietly. My father said it was better to put energy into my older brother, that he had the right image, more driven, more in line with what the family should represent. I stood outside that door until the conversation moved on. I never told anyone what I heard. I buried it for years. I acted like it didn't matter. But I never forgot. Last week, while going through some boxes in my closet, I found an old camcorder from that same vacation. I almost tossed it, but I opened the memory slot and popped in the tape. There was footage I didn't remember recording. One clip had been left running by mistake while I left it on a shelf in the den. The timestamp matched that same night. The clip wasn't long, but it was clear. It picked up most of the conversation, my father's voice, my uncle's laughter, the exact words I remembered. I had unknowingly recorded the moment they decided I wasn't worth investing in. I digitized the clip. Then I sent it. Every family member who had ever laughed, whispered, or distanced themselves during my divorce got a link in their inbox. No long explanation, just a subject line that said, "This is why." The reactions came in waves. A few relatives replied with apologies. A couple said they never realized how far back it went. Most said nothing. One or two tried to defend the conversation, claimed it was taken out of context or said it was just talk. But the recording didn't lie. It didn't need interpretation. One cousin, barely out of college, sent a handwritten note to my apartment. He wrote that he'd always thought I seemed different, not weak, not soft, just someone who didn't pretend. He thanked me for not staying quiet. My father never called. He didn't write. Just sent one final text, "You never did know when to let things go." I blocked him on the spot, permanently. That was the last connection I hadn't cut, and it ended there. With everything out, I didn't feel triumphant. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't waiting for anyone to say I was right. I felt clean, like I'd finally stepped out of something that had been sticking to me for decades. I took every file, every message, every document, and put them into one folder. I renamed it They Lied. I didn't. I saved it on a hard drive, unshared, unposted, just there, untouched. Not as a weapon, not for revenge, just in case someone tries to rewrite it all one day. Because now, there's nothing left to explain,